They picked the wrong person to unleash their racist fury on in a grocery store parking lot. By the time it was over, their entitled outburst had cost them everything they held dear. The Friday evening grocery run. It's a universal ritual of misery, right? The aisles are jammed, the checkout lines are a mile long, and the parking lot is a battlefield. I was just trying to survive it, like everyone else. I'd finished a brutal week at the architectural firm. My brain was fried, and all I wanted was to grab some food for the weekend and retreat to my apartment. I was circling the lot in my sensible sedan when I finally saw the Holy Grail, a pair of reverse lights flashing on a minivan. I pulled up, put on my blinker, and waited patiently. It was the decent thing to do. The minivan pulled out, and just as I started to ease into the spot, a behemoth of a white SUV, one of those that looks like it belongs to a Secret Service detail, came screeching around the corner from the wrong direction and whipped right into my space. I let out a long sigh and gave a short, polite tap on my horn. Not an angry blast, just a little, "Hey, I was here." The kind of tap you give when someone doesn't notice the light has turned green. But the driver's side door flew open, and a woman who I can only describe as the final boss of all Karens stomped out. She had the haircut, the aggressive sunglasses, the whole 9 yards. She planted her hands on her hips and glared at me. "Is there a problem?" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I rolled down my window, still trying to keep things civil. "Yeah, I was waiting for that spot," I said, gesturing with my thumb. "My blinker was on and everything." She scoffed, a truly theatrical sound. "Well, you weren't fast enough, and now you're blocking the lane. We have 5 children in this car, and we need to get our shopping done." She said 5 children, like it was a royal title that granted her dominion over all asphalt. I was about to just let it go, it wasn't worth the fight, when her husband got out. He was a big guy, doughy but imposing, wearing a red polo shirt that was a size too tight. He walked around the front of their tank and stood next to his wife, crossing his thick arms over his chest. He didn't say anything. He just stared at me. It was a clear attempt at intimidation. That's when I felt that familiar, ugly shift in the air, the kind I've felt 100 times before. This wasn't about a parking spot anymore. "You people are always in such a hurry," the woman said, her voice dripping with venom. "You should learn some patience. You people." There it was. I took a deep breath. "Ma'am, this has nothing to do with patience. You cut me off and took the spot I was waiting for, that's all." The husband, let's call him Kevin, finally decided to speak. "You heard my wife," he grunted, taking a step closer to my car. "She said to move along. You got a problem with your hearing?" They were positioning themselves now. She was near my driver's side window, and he was standing just in front of my car, effectively blocking me in. They were cornering me, over a parking spot. My heart started to beat a little faster, not with fear, but with a hot, simmering anger. I wasn't going to let this happen. Not today. Slowly, deliberately, I reached for my phone on the passenger seat. I didn't raise it up in a big, obvious way. I just angled it on my lap, made sure the camera was pointing out my open window, and hit record. "I'm not moving until you move your vehicle from the spot you stole," I said, my voice steady and calm. I looked from her to him. "Or we can call the store manager, or the police. Your choice." My calmness seemed to enrage them even more. The woman's face twisted into a mask of pure fury. "Oh, the police? You think they're gonna take your side? In this neighborhood?" she sneered. "Look at you in your cheap little car. You probably don't even belong here." Kevin took another step forward, putting his hands on the hood of my car. "You think you're a tough guy? Huh? Sitting in your car, getting all mouthy. Why don't you get out and say that?" I just kept my eyes on them, letting the camera roll. His fingerprints were now all over my hood. Her words were now digitally immortalized. They were digging their own grave, and they didn't even know it. But then Karen's eyes narrowed. Her gaze flickered down to my lap, and she saw the faint red light of the recording icon reflecting off my screen. Her face went from red to a ghostly white. The sneer vanished, replaced by sheer panicked rage. "He's recording us!" she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me. "That little punk is recording us!" Kevin's face went purple. He slammed his fist down on my hood, leaving a dent. "You turn that off! You have no right to film me! I'll break that phone in your face!" But it was Karen who moved first. In a flash of fury, she lunged toward my open window, her fingers clawed like talons, screeching a word so vile, so racist, that it seemed to suck all the air out of the parking lot. She was reaching for my phone, her nails just inches from my hand. My instincts took over. It was pure muscle memory. My finger shot from my phone to the power window switch on the door. There was a whir of the motor and a sickening thud as the tempered glass shot upwards, catching Karen's arm just above the elbow. She let out a piercing shriek, a sound of both pain and sheer, unadulterated shock. Her arm was trapped. Her perfectly manicured fingers, which had been moments away from my face, were now splayed awkwardly against the inside of my window. "My arm! He's breaking my arm!" she wailed, her face contorting with a mix of real pain and theatrical agony. Kevin went ballistic. He started pounding on my roof, his meaty fists making dull thuds that echoed inside the car. "Let her go! You psycho! Let my wife go! I'm gonna kill you!" he roared, his face a blotchy canvas of rage. But something had changed. We were no longer two cars in a quiet corner of the lot. We were a spectacle. People were stopping their carts, pulling out their own phones. The hunter had become the hunted. A small crowd was forming, and I could see the little red lights of their devices pointing our way. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. I didn't lower the window. I couldn't, not while he was threatening me. I simply held up my phone, still recording, and looked Kevin dead in the eye through my windshield. "Back away from my car," I said, my voice low and even. "Your wife assaulted me. Your fingerprints are all over my dented hood. And about 20 people are recording you right now." He froze, his fist raised mid-pound. He glanced around, his eyes wide, finally taking in the audience he and his wife had cultivated. He saw the phones, the disapproving stares. His bravado evaporated like a puddle in the summer sun. He backed away slowly, sputtering nonsense about lawsuits and how I was a menace. A minute later, a golf cart came zipping down the lane, a fluorescent yellow light flashing on top. Store security. A young guy, probably no older than 20, hopped out, a walkie-talkie squawking on his hip. He looked utterly overwhelmed. "Whoa, whoa, what's going on here?" he asked, his eyes darting from Karen's trapped arm to the dent in my hood, to me sitting calmly in the driver's seat. Before I could say a word, Karen launched into her performance. Tears streamed down her face. "This man attacked me. He tried to run me over for a parking spot, and then he grabbed my arm with his window. He's a monster. I want him arrested." Kevin chimed in, puffing up his chest again, now that he had a perceived authority figure to appeal to. "That's right. We were just trying to park, and this lunatic went crazy. We're pressing full charges." The young security guard looked at me, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. This was the moment where the script usually flips against me, but I had the unedited director's cut. I kept my voice level. "Sir, they stole my parking spot, verbally assaulted me with racial slurs, the husband dented my vehicle, and the woman lunged into my car to attack me and steal my phone. I raised the window to defend myself. It's all on video." The security guard looked from my calm face to their hysterical ones and made the right call. He spoke into his radio. "Yeah, dispatch, I'm going to need police at the north entrance. We have a situation." 15 minutes later, a police cruiser rolled up. A tall, stern-looking officer got out, surveyed the scene, and sighed the sigh of a man who was already tired of everyone's drama. He separated us, listening to Karen and Kevin's wild, embellished tale first. I watched as they gestured wildly, painting me as a violent carjacker. The officer just nodded, his face unreadable. Then he came over to me. "All right, son. Let's hear your side." I didn't waste his time. "Officer," I said, "I have the entire incident on video, from the moment they stole the spot to the moment she assaulted me. It's unedited. Would you like to see it?" His eyebrows shot up. "I would very much like to see that." I handed him my phone. He pressed play. I watched Karen and Kevin, who were standing about 20 feet away, looking smug. They thought they had this in the bag. The officer held the phone up to his ear to hear the audio. His expression hardened. I saw his eyes narrow when Kevin put his hands on my hood. I saw his jaw clench when Karen screamed her slur and lunged at the window. The video ended. He stood there in silence for a long moment, the sounds of the parking lot fading into the background. Then he slowly lowered the phone, his gaze locking onto the couple. He walked over to them, his boots crunching on the asphalt with a finality that sent a shiver down my spine. "All right," the officer's voice boomed across the parking lot, sharp and cold as ice. "I've seen enough. I need you two to listen to me very carefully." He pointed a finger first at Kevin, then at Karen. "Based on the evidence I've just reviewed, this is no longer a simple dispute. This is a criminal investigation involving vandalism, assault, and quite possibly a hate crime." The smug expressions on Karen and Kevin's faces dissolved into pure, slack-jawed disbelief. It was like watching a cartoon character run off a cliff and hang in the air for a second before realizing their mistake. The word hate crime hung in the air, heavy and damning. "Hate crime?" Karen squawked, her voice reaching a new level of shrillness. "He attacked me! My arm is broken!" The officer gave her a look that could freeze fire. "Ma'am, your arm is not broken. It's bruised because you shoved it into a moving car window in an attempt to assault a man. I've seen the video. I've heard what you said. And now you're going to be quiet while I speak." He turned to Kevin. "And you. You threatened him and willfully damaged his property. That's criminal mischief." He motioned to his partner, who had been quietly taking notes. "Cuff him." The scene was surreal. As the second officer approached with handcuffs, Karen and Kevin finally seemed to grasp the gravity of their situation. Their outrage morphed into pathetic, desperate pleading. "This is a misunderstanding," Kevin blustered. "We have 5 children in the car. You can't arrest us." "Should have thought of that before you acted like criminals," the officer said flatly, not missing a beat. The metallic click of the handcuffs snapping shut on their wrists was one of the most satisfying sounds I have ever heard. They were escorted to the back of the police cruiser, their faces a mask of humiliated rage, all in front of the assembled crowd of shoppers who were now openly recording their walk of shame. I gave my statement, airdropped the video file to the officer's department email right there on the spot, and got an incident number. As they were about to leave, the first officer walked back over to me. "Look," he said, his voice a little softer now. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. Nobody deserves that kind of treatment. You did everything right. Staying calm, recording everything. That video is airtight. It makes our job easy." In the weeks that followed, I learned just how airtight it was. My phone started blowing up. A few of the bystander videos had gone viral. Local news stations picked up the story. "Parking lot rage couple arrested after racist tirade." My video, which the police released as evidence, was the star of the show. There was no denying what they did, no room for interpretation. It was all there in high definition. I found a great lawyer who was practically salivating when he saw the footage. "We filed a civil suit for the damages to my car, for assault, and for emotional distress. The couple's lawyer tried to argue it was a mutual confrontation, but the video evidence was irrefutable. Their defense crumbled before it even began." The resolution was swift and devastating for them. The criminal charges stuck. Kevin was found guilty of criminal mischief and making terroristic threats. Karen was found guilty of assault, but the judge didn't stop there. Citing the clear racial animus in the video, he enhanced their sentences under the state's hate crime statute. It meant harsher penalties, mandatory anger management, and sensitivity training. But the real gut punch came from the civil suit. Faced with an unwinnable case and overwhelming public shame, they settled out of court. The settlement was massive. It more than covered the repairs to my car. I could have bought a brand new one. It covered my legal fees, therapy for the stress and anxiety that followed, and a significant amount for punitive damages. I'm talking a life-altering pay off my student loans and put a down payment on a condo kind of sum. The check arrived, and I just stared at it, the number almost seeming fake. Their 5-minute burst of unadulterated hatred had just cost them a fortune. The best part? A few months later, I got a random message on social media from a woman who claimed to live in their neighborhood. She sent me a picture of a for sale sign in front of a familiar-looking house, right next to a white SUV that looked like it belonged to a Secret Service detail. Apparently, the legal fees and the massive settlement forced them to sell their oversized house in the fancy suburb they were so proud of. The public shaming had made them pariahs in their own community. They had to leave the very neighborhood Karen accused me of not belonging in. I never went looking for a fight that day. I just wanted to buy some groceries. But when the fight came to me, wrapped in ugly racist entitlement, I refused to back down. And because of a calm head and a smartphone, a couple who thought they were above it all learned a very public and very expensive lesson. They picked on the wrong person on the wrong day, and it cost them everything. Every now and then when I park my car, I think of them, and I can't help but smile.